Hey gang, Joyce with Skippy Cows Farms. Oh, look what we got in the skies. Isn't that amazing? And just a couple days before we're expecting rain. I'm so surprised. Spent the last couple of hours, this is the second day, I've been taking and getting the nut meat out of my walnuts. Now, yesterday I was doing it with the idea of using the float and swirl method, but I don't have the screens that the guy online talked about, so I tried doing it with the tools that I had here, and it just didn't work well. I tried using that glass ball, and where is that mesh? That, the cone shape. Oh, there it is. The cone shaped screen sieves. And here we go. And it just didn't work very well. Spent a lot of time and didn't have any real differentiation. I was able to float a little bit and pick out by hand and get these nut pieces that did not go through a 1/2-inch screen, but it was just really not something I liked. It was really frustrating for me with the equipment that I have. These are all of the walnuts that I cracked yesterday that had substantial, most of them had substantial pieces of nut meat. Now some of these, there's no nut meat in them anymore, and that's what ended up in here or in here. But about 1/2 or 2/3 of what you see on this this mat is actually shell. It's not nut meat. This is pretty much all nut meat. And there's a few nice pieces that came out here and here, but not much. And I spent an hour or two this morning trying to make it work. And as you can see, I've got some nuts here that have 1/2 or 3/4 of the nut still inside the husk. And all of these had pretty decent sized pieces that didn't come out. The ones that you see here, like this and this, had a decent sized piece that came out just from getting bounced around or floating. What I found when I took that glass bowl, that glass bowl was virtually full of things like this, and that was from 3 bags from yesterday. So let me come back over here and give you a context versus what I'm doing today. Now what I'm doing today is I'm not trying to just break the shell meat out of the shell and dump it in a bowl. What I'm trying to do is get as much decent meat as I can. That floating stuff is frustrating for me. I don't have the right equipment. I didn't like it. It didn't fit me. But I figured, well, I got this really cool tool here. Let's see if we can work with it a little bit. And I will tell you, I did take his advice, and I did soak my several bags of walnuts last night to this morning. So it was at least 12 hours, but it was not 24. And it did make a huge difference. So kudos for that. If for nothing else, the video is worth that. Now, let me take just a minute here, and I wish you, this is being recorded on Christmas Eve, so you won't get it until after, but I hope you had a blessed and holy Christmas, and remember the reason for the season. And Now this, today I spent, about an hour and a half, maybe a little more, and shelled one bag full, which is this size. So 7 handfuls. It's several pounds. And I got some decent meat out of the walnuts, but I got a lot of small pieces. So today I determined I was going to try and do a little bit different. Excuse me. I was going to try and do something that was less frustrating and more comfortable for me, which is exactly what I did. And look at the size of the meat that came out of that. I mean, that's pretty awesome for hand done walnuts. There's a few that got over crunched, shall we say. Let me put you on hold for just a moment. Let me get the bowl from yesterday. Okay, gang, I'm back. Now, this is the bowl from yesterday and the day before. So this represents 6 meshed bags of walnuts. This represents 1 meshed bag of walnuts. Now granted, by the time I was finishing doing this, I was doing pretty good. But I think I did just a kind of rough visual on my own. That's 1 bag, and that's 6. That ain't 6 times the amount of walnuts, gang. It may be 3 or 4 times the walnuts, but not 6. So, not only that, most of the walnuts that I'm getting here, with the exception of a few, those pieces are intact and in good shape. I was learning some new techniques and how to use the goody getter to get the most out of the goody getter, pun intended. And it's a whole lot easier for me handling the walnut. Once I'm getting quads and good sized pieces for the majority of the nuts. Now here is one that was in this container here, and as you can see, this is about a quarter or a little less of the shell, and there's a great big piece in here that didn't come out. I'm not quite sure how it ended up in here, but makes for a great illustration. Normally you'd have to go in and pick and choose and do whatever things, and I've been able to develop a couple of techniques using the goody getter where I can actually get that to pop out. So I'm going to take that out of that container. Oops. Looks like there's another piece of shell in this container. All right. So if you look at these, if you look at those side by side, this container is probably twice the size of that bowl. And that bowl is a good third of the way full. So, I think I'm getting at least as much meat material, but I'm getting better quality pieces. And this is from one bag, gang. This was from 6 bags, and this took me a whole lot longer to do. So, with that, gang, I would encourage you, if you're going to plan to do walnuts, black walnuts, if you're planning on doing them for your family's use, If you're planning on maybe doing it down the road and have them for barter, well, you're going to want something that looks really nice and clean like this. You're not going to want something like this that's got a bunch of jagged edges and little pieces, and the bigger ones are on the top. The bottom of this isn't as pretty, I can promise you that, because the ones that I did first don't look nearly as good as this. So, and I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. The young man on the video that was talking about doing the floaters, he was the one who suggested soaking, testing the nuts. Look who we got here. Miss Supervisor herself. Miss Lucy is the supervisor. Yes, she is. She's the supervisor. Come over and say hi. He was the one, I'm not using the equipment that he specified. If I use the sieves and the equipment as he specified, I may be getting quite a bit different results. The one technique of his that I used that did work was when I did have a big chunk, like a quarter of a nut, that had a pretty good sized piece in there. Rather than try and get it out by hand, I just threw it in that bowl, and through the course of just jostling those nuts around, those partial nuts around, that nut meat came out. A certain percentage of it came out. But I ended up after, let me get up here. Bye, Miss Lucy. Have a good one. Merry Christmas. At the end of 6 bowls, I had a huge amount. This whole bowl was mounded up and overflowing. That's the amount that I have after 1 bag. That's not 1/6 of a bowl. So what I was able to do was I was able to resolve all of my nut meat needs, getting them out of the walnut shell using nothing more than the goody getter, my hoof pick, some inexpensive side cutters, an old-fashioned pair of needle nose pliers, a pair of Irwin vice grips, and I did pop a shell or two with my fence tool. I've discovered that using my chopstick as a nut digger outer tool just really didn't work too well, and fortunately I've got fingernails, so I've been using those instead of this to some pretty good effect. And but I will tell you, gang, if you're planning on doing black walnuts, it is a lot of work, number one. Number two, if you don't have, I would say Grandpa's Goody Getter or a chisel type of walnut sheller, don't even start, because they are real tough. It's not like a pecan or anything else. It's real hard to get the nuts out. But they got a lot of oil in them. They got a lot of nutrition in them. And I live here in the Southeast. It's a perennial crop that's free, and it's here. And so even with all the work that I took, putting in, gathering them, hulling them, shelling them, I calculate that I'm going to end up calorie positive. You can't say that with anything in your garden. You know, if you're going to be cooking raising green beans or tomatoes or anything like that, it is going to cost you more calories to grow those annual crops. With the bed preparation, seeds or seedlings, and weeding and everything else, it's going to cost you more calories than you're going to get out of it. Does that mean you don't want to grow them? No. But you don't want to have to depend on them to survive. So, and these walnuts are really good. They've got a little bit of a bite to them, but they're sweet. And there's a lot of oil in these walnuts. So, yeah, I've spent a lot of work trying to teach myself how to do it more efficiently. I'll probably do another video, even though I said I wasn't going to. My website's about what I'm doing here on the property, and what I'm doing right now is walnuts. So that's what I'll be talking about till I get my sheep back on the place, and spring gets sprung. We're going to be doing special projects, and right now the special project is harvesting, hulling, shelling, and getting the meat out of black walnuts. And so we had cold weather yesterday or a few days ago, and it's real warm, and it looks like it's going to be warm for us for Christmas. But gang, I hope you have a blessed Christmas. I hope more than anything else that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, and then I'll be able to see you in eternity. Because some of the options, well, the only other option, it really isn't all that great. So, Merry Christmas. Spend time with people that you love and respect, and hopefully some of them are even in your family. And with that, gang, I will wish you blessings for the day, and whatever you do, just keep chasing the dream.